that Trump, that I always joke that it's really funny that our first almost guaranteed atheist president is Donald Trump of all people. It's like, how ironic is that? And I wrote down, Wiseacre, man, you gotta be careful here. You're chasing away our solid white Christian follower base here. Like all the people, I mean, we rely on these people reviews on this channel,
right,
but
sure. Hey, it's what I grew up in, man. I know all of it. I grew up evangelical Christian. I know this. I know their mindset. Is that this world and government are evil because they're against God.
Yeah, it is wild growing out of Christian nationalism and escaping the cult only to see them take over the damn country. Like, I was like, God, right? I thought I had made it out of these folks, and here you go. Boom,
and when I was in it, after I left, I'm like, these people are bad. People, like, I literally left Christianity. It was like 15, 20 years ago. And it was because I'm like, they've turned into fatalism. It's Christian fatalism. They don't give a fuck about this world because they don't believe it's real. Yeah. Because that's coming later. And that's exactly how they're dealing with everything right now.
This is a little aside, John. Sorry, but you know what happens when these conversations come up with me. I can't escape it. But Wiseacre is correct on both counts here. First, when you mentioned how Project 2025 goes back, 40 years to like the moral majority days and everything. And I know a lot of creators are different, but I never actually talked about Project 2025, because not that it wasn't a problem, but because this has been the same thing the entire time. Like they've been growing on these same principles now for decades. And I didn't want to make it seem like, oh, what if they change the name? Right. And then you got to go after the actual policies that are bad. And yes, the Christian nationalist movement, it's not, I hate when people say, well, they're not real Christians. That's kind of a cop out. It gives people cover and shit like that. But the way it's practiced in the United States and what it has brought to light is that this is a civic religion that worships the Christian conservative white culture in the United States in this particular era, or particular 50, 60 years ago. And they believe it to the extent that it's important to them. I'll put it that way. It is very important to them that they create a society in which women are subservient to men, and they're coerced into submission either by law or by culture, that minorities know their place, that they have a society that worships this idea of physical labor and eschews any kind of intellectual improvement, that no one asks for handouts, that bosses control everything, and that the morality is not horizontal. The morality is vertical. It comes from the top down. You do what the boss says, and the boss is God's representative. They want this. And this is why I get annoyed when I see all of these fuck around and find out videos. There is no finding out going on because you guys don't realize it. You don't fucking get it. They will gladly live in a nightmare world that you're thinking of. So when you say, wow, you're going to lose your healthcare, they're fine with it. They're fine. It might suck for them, but this is what God wants. You're like, oh, your daughter might die because she had an ectopic pregnancy. Hey, that's God's will. I'm going to see her again one day. There's no convincing folks unless they leave that faith and leave that philosophy. They're going to hold on to the rest of that stuff. You have to defeat them. Defeating them is the only answer here. There's no persuading them. So sorry, John, go ahead. What were your thoughts on this?
So I know I just said, and by the way, Wiseacre, this is a conference we talk about, Christianity, Christian nationalism, evangelicalism, a lot. And I very much stand on the stump of I don't believe religious people are telling the truth. I don't believe 98% of them truly believe any fucking word of their religious belief. Because how could they? How fucking could they? It's insanity. They might say it, but if you put Wonder Woman's lasso of truth around them, I do not think
it's all built on fear. You'd be shocked what people will do for being afraid of suffering in hell for eternity.
I get that, but I also I didn't grow up evangelical. I grew up Catholic, but I grew up with that shit.
John, how many evangelicals have to
even when I said I believed it, I didn't fucking believe it.
We didn't even think you were Christians. I'll put it that way.
I told them that. Yeah,
well, we didn't think you were Christians either. So that feeling was mutual.
By the way, I was trying to think of Leonard Leo and Federalist Society. Sorry.
Yeah. But anyway, I agree with what TJ said very much, that even if, whatever you say, their belief in God, they very much believe that it is important for American society to be structured in this way. They believe that deep down in their core. And the thing that I would like to say, as much as I did just say, hey, it's over. Hey, I don't see how the current Democratic Party could ever rebuild this because it is being destroyed. and we're going to need to find a way to bring it back at some point. I'm going to give my optimistic case for hope here. And that's that maybe, just maybe, the people doing this are incompetent. And while they have successfully gained the power to do this and are going to do a lot of damage just because they have the power to do so, they are using the Trump term 1 playbook of flood the zone. They are putting so much shit out there, grinding the gears so that they just don't work anymore. But currently, they're doing that through executive order. And the funny thing about executive order is that if they can't retain the presidency, it can be very easily flipped. And even under the current Democrat, even if we got another, normal establishment Joe Biden type, there's going to be the political will to unflip every single Trump switch he made with an executive order. It'll be day one to you'll have the political will to do it. Actually getting it refunctioning again, that's a whole different story. But at least the executive orders will be destroyed. And so the point here is, it's not, unless our entire ideology is incorrect, destroying these things is going to hurt a lot of people. And while the true believers are going to just believe whatever their pastor, whoever tells them, whatever Trump says, that's not enough to maintain power. And we've already seen Trump's approval rating starting to go in the free fall. And we don't know where it's going to end. But if he's unable to maintain his political leverage over 5 Republican members of the House of Representatives, he suddenly lost the chamber. He suddenly no longer has the trifecta to do everything that he wants. And so there is a legitimate case to be made that these people are incompetent. They're going to flood the zone, but they're not going to have the ability to do so in a way that has lasting teeth. And so what they might just do is awaken the political will to rebuild a New Deal. That is my optimistic case for what can happen here. A lot of fucking people are going to get hurt, and I'm not, by any stretch of the imagination, making the accelerationist argument that that's the best way to accomplish these goals. But they might just be the ones fucking around finding out. What do you think, Wiseacre?
Yeah, I agree with you that they are incompetent. I mean, that's an obvious thing. That's our saving grace, is that they're dumb. I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Fifth Risk. I highly recommend it. It was written before the first Trump presidency, and thankfully there were people in place to prevent everything the book talked about. But what the book talked about is now what's happening. Which is, it's not so much that they're putting incompetent people, is that they're taking away people with decades of experience and year-over-year overlap of carrying on that expertise. Because everyone who doesn't understand the government can easily just believe that it's full of incompetent, corrupt people, because they don't know what it means. It's like looking it's like looking under the hood of a car. You don't know what any of that does for the most part, unless you're a mechanic. And when you're not a mechanic, you can say, I can start pulling this out and that out and doing that. And you don't have anything that functions. Like they don't know and they don't care. The problem is that you're going to lose those people with that institutional knowledge, which is important. Like if you're running any kind of business, an apprenticeship or anything like, it's important to be able to carry on how something is done. Just because someone doesn't understand how it's done doesn't mean it's not valuable. In fact, I'd say the more you don't understand something, the better someone's doing, because you aren't being aware of what they're doing, because they're not fucking up and causing problems. Like, we're starting to be aware of the importance of the FAA because fucking planes keep crashing. So that's what worries me, is that I do think that there's a really cool thing called the Formula for Change. I recommend people look it up. It's this interesting sociological sort of idea of what it takes for people to finally change behavior. And I think we're in that area right now where a lot of people are just too comfortable with how things are because they're insulated from it. But Trump is dumb and a battering ram. He's a natural disaster, really. And he's just going to hurt everyone. And they're going to be like, whoa, fuck this. The problem is, like, the rebuild, like you said, I don't know that it's going to be a matter of will. I think there's going to be plenty of people who want to rebuild. It's going to be what we're going to rebuild with. Because when you destroy things, you can't take what was destroyed and build on it. It's gone. It's destroyed. So it's going to be, we're going to have lost all this institutional knowledge and all of this Like the whole thing with Elon Musk and them saying that there's 350-year-old people that are receiving benefits.
Yeah.
Because they don't know anything about the institutional knowledge of how it was built on
Yep.
this really old programming system that had this auto date substitute of 1875 or whatever it was. But like, that's gone. Like, we're going to have to hope that we can retrieve materials that weren't destroyed that talk about like that's what worries me isn't so much that we will lack the will. It's that it's going to take a lot. Like when we were a small country of 2.5 million people when we started, it's a lot easier to start with that few people. That's the size of where I live. 330 million people trying to get them to coalesce and rebuild something is going to be colossally hard.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Just like he's like cutting them out and saying, hey, we're firing all these folks and watching it collapse. Oddly, people will adapt. It might suck, but people will adapt. And then someone else getting back in. These folks that they fire, they're going to find different jobs. They're going to have to survive. So 5 years from now, like they may not be available. And like finding people to replace that is going to be quite a big issue. And I saw, Lady Lavender says that's why she left evangelicalism, Christian nationalist, the cult. Of course, we had a comment for Wolfie here. And John, you're getting yelled at in the comments here. Oh my God, John could not be more wrong.
I want to address what Conservatory of the Ozarks says here, because he says people I grew up with believe that you do not need to leave your husband who beats you. If your husband molests your children, you should stay married and visit him in prison and forgive him. Being happy or healthy in life is irrelevant because this life will be over in a blink of an eye and don't have all of eternity to enjoy the rest of the loved ones and unending God's favor.
Yep.
And he said, I remember when I was a child praying over and over again that I could die a martyr because then I knew for sure I would have a guaranteed crown for what Jesus' feet, and who cares about death. Now, here's where I want to provide the nuance here in my take. I agree with statements 1 and 3 there. I agree that people believe they shouldn't leave their husbands when they beat them. I believe they believe that. I believe that children actually believe the religious shit. I don't believe the vast majority of these people actually believe that every word of the Bible is 100% true, because if they did, they would not have the political and lifestyle beliefs that they do. It's physically impossible to 100% believe that Jesus Christ was a real human being and that his teachings were the infallible word of God, and also to vote for Donald Trump. You cannot do both of those.
That's because you are exposed to
truth around you. If you put the lasso of truth around you, one of those things would win out, and it isn't fucking God.
But they aren't accessing information that ever puts that in doubt. They're on an island with a moat around it, and they're telling people, if you get near that moat, you're going to die.
I know.
Literally that you're going to die. And people are so terrified because you lose. Here's the truth. You lose an entire community, entire identity, an entire support system.
Yep. And that's why I don't believe them. There is
a lot of that, but people are also
much actual punishment for them leaving that I don't believe they actually believe. I believe
you're not wrong in that there's a lot of people that do it out of fear, but there's also just a lot of people who are dumb and don't ever think beyond the most immediate. We see that true in elections.
There's true believers. Don't get me wrong.
But I would say that's absolutely true. What you're saying is 100% true for everyone that's in this administration claiming to be a Christian.
That's true. Yep.
They do not buy almost all of it. They don't like Jesus. In fact, they don't like the United States. I always go at people now who are like, Trump's going to make America great again. Like, he hates America. You hate America. You hate everything it is. You don't believe what the founding fathers stood for. You don't believe what they believed in. You don't believe in checks and balances. You hate the Constitution. You hate the fact that they didn't want to have a monarchy. Like, you hate this country. You just do. And they get really mad. Like,
yeah. True. I wanted to. So you said statements 1 and 3. Did you have a problem with this one? Being happy or healthy in life is irrelevant because this life will be over the blink of an eye.
Yeah, I don't believe they actually believe in eternity.
Oh,
they do.
They do.
The thing is, they might say they believe it, but
they
like,
do. If
you put the lasso of truth around, they'd be like, "I'm not sure."
It's the what's that bargain called? Where it's basically like
Pascal's wager.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Pascal's wager doesn't work because if you believe because of Pascal's wager, you don't actually believe. You're making a gamble.
But that's true of anyone with anything, isn't it? Like, that could be true of like, why stay alive if life doesn't have, like, their argument to you would be like, if you don't have any moral. I
fundamentally believe life has value. I fundamentally believe human life. I cannot prove that. I cannot prove But if you put Wonder Woman's lasso of truth around me and you ask me, do you believe human life has value? I think I would say yes.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm saying they would say that you're basing that on God giving this.
Yeah. So it's like it's easy to they flip around. It's like, well, you have they would say you don't actually believe that. Like they would say the exact same thing. They say that no, fundamentally, since you have no objective way to prove life has value, you don't believe it. And so like what I say is like to them, there's 10 pole issues that are very important to them that supersede almost everything. Abortion is a huge one. And so they will say, listen, if you pin them down on economic, they don't fucking understand that shit. They don't know. They know that this is what they've been told is right. And that's what most Americans think anyway. That capitalism, it's flawed, but it's like the Tina thing. There is no alternative. Like this has the way it has to be is delusional. Think about social stuff. So abortion is huge for them. And so nothing in their mind is bad enough about the Republican Party that is any worse than Democrats slaughtering hundreds of thousands of people a year. Now, once again, abortion, if we got literal about it, they don't really believe that abortion's murder because they talk to people who have had abortions. They don't say they should be thrown in prison. There's a creator on TikTok named Carvin Says who had a great analogy on this, that why are Republicans complaining about gas prices when they say that abortion is murder? Like, imagine if there was some guy chucking 5-year-olds off a building, just doing it, just hundreds of thousands of 5-year-olds. You would never stop talking about it. You wouldn't give a shit about gas prices. So you don't really think it's murder either, but in their minds they do. So I'm saying, like, I know it doesn't make sense, but they do believe it. That's because I was there. I was one of them, and I believed it. And so I did. I'm assuming and they say it when there's like nothing to gain from it either, like with their friends or family or whatever.
It's brainwashing. Yeah, it's literally like I was born into it. I had no escape from it. So it was literally wired into how I think. So like, and that's a lot of people. They're born into it. And there's obviously people that convert, but it is brainwashing. It literally is. Where your brain hits a wall where it will not accept the fact that you could be wrong, because that's terrifying.
I agree with that. I agree, but I'm saying, like, if you could make them,
if you could, if
you had a magic Wonder Woman's lasso and you put those beliefs in contradiction, the belief in religion and the afterlife and all of these mystical shits, that would fall first. That would lose to the other beliefs. Which
Mystical Shits was my band in college.
Again, I could be wrong about this. This is for I look back, like, I also grew up in a very religious upbringing. Not like crazy evangelical church, but like very much like I said I believed this shit, and I can look back at myself and go, no, I didn't. No, I
agree. I
was lying to myself. And I think that most people are like that.
Oh, Lady Lavender says false. They can, just like there's racist Christians all the time. I do point this out a lot because Kyle says something about that a no true Scotsman thing. You see this a lot with Christians because like when you point out the bad things Christians do, they love saying that. Well, those aren't true Christians. They're not real Christians.
Yeah. They always have an out.
Yeah, as if you couldn't just pick any point in the last 2,000 years and say, wow, look what these Christians did. I mean, there's name your Pope from from 1500 backwards. Yeah.
That should be a new segment, TJ.
That would be great. That's our next segment next Thursday.
The Pope is right.
I would do badly.
So I like the Pope names, Justice or Sixtus. Pius. There has never been a Pope Sixtus the Sixth. Which is kind of how have we dropped the ball on this? Like there's like we have
biggest sticketh.
Yeah, we need a 6th the 6th, whatever the Pope comes along here. But yeah, I mean, it's a dark thing, but they like to say, well, they're not real. Yes, folks, they were. The Ku Klux Klan, those are real Christians. Yep. The Spanish Inquisition, real Christians. Conquistadors, real Christian. The people who executed the folks at the Salem witch trials, real Christians. Like, Christian is not synonymous with good person, which is apparently what people think it is. It's not. They're capable.
Nor is Christian synonymous with a type of Christian. That's what's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Once they get all of these executive orders out of the way and they're fighting over Christianity being in charge, like, which version of it now? That's going to be fun for them to be like, getting angry about it. We have to speak in tongues, and other people like, no, that's ludicrous. Like they can have all the Christian battles that happened for centuries before anyway.
Yeah, I'll close out here with this one. It says the circular reasoning is inescapable. You're taught that if what the Bible says doesn't make sense, that is Satan trying to deceive you. 100% true.
Yep.
Like God's ways are above your ways. His thoughts are above your thoughts. So if you ever run into some obvious congruence, it's like, well, I'm just going to leave it to God. And it's easy. It's an easy out.
And that's what they're doing with Trump now. Exactly the same thing.
Yep.
He's replaced. Did you ever see the bumper sticker? God said it. I
I
believe,
believe
that
it.
settles
That
it.
settles it.
Just
It's
put
Trump
in
now.
there.
It's Trump now. I do
Yep.
find it very offensive that they compare Trump to King David. Like,
Ooh.
as fucked up as King David was, like, he was a competent military and political leader, something you can't say about Donald Trump. But
You can't argue, and you can't win an argument with people whose way of reasoning is tails I win, heads you lose.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's impossible.
And I want to make one more comment to a Conservatory of the Ozarks here. I want you to understand that you very well are probably right. This is my religious belief. you can't logic me out of this. I will admit to everything you're saying. You will not get me to believe that
You can't
people
logic me.
actually believe this shit.
It's
I just
hard, yeah.
can't
Look,
comprehend it.
I got that. Yeah, I got that too. It is hard to understand that, how they go there, but